Alright, I think I've covered almost everything, but just for the heck of it, let's add one more test day blurb in. This is about standards. Um, there's a lot of misconceptions about test days and how often kids should test and when kids should pass or fail. My take on it is that, I'll just tell you my take, but there are many variations of this. My opinion is, when a kid comes out of CanSkate, hopefully I'm involved in the CanSkate program and the advanced CanSkate program, and they come out with a decent standard. Occasionally I've gotten a kid out of CanSkate that I had nothing to do with, that ended up being a very good standard, but I'd say for the 3 or 4 skaters I've gotten out of CanSkate that I've been kind of happy with their learning capabilities when they come out of CanSkate, I've had 30 come out that have been incapable of learning figure skating coming out of CanSkate, which is a weird situation to be in when you're supposed to be teaching them figure skating and they, for instance, can't glide on one foot. What do you do with that? Spend 3 years trying to get them to glide on one foot? It's a very huge waste of my time and effort, especially if I have other people who are capable of learning figure skating. That went off topic pretty fast. So my kind of, the way things should roll for me is I try to get them up to a certain standard, which hopefully isn't hard. A very high standard where they understand what they're doing, they've learned what they're doing, they can execute it regularly, they understand what they're executing, they can self-analyze, they can self-correct, they're self-aware, they know when they're doing something wrong, they know what they're doing wrong, they know how to fix it. Like, the test should be very, very well-rounded as far as their understanding and execution and consistency. And it should end up making super good, super fast, super high pass rate on tests, which I have. The complaint about this, if there is one, is that parents can get the impression that they're missing out on opportunities if test days are going by and they're not testing, or if they see other kids testing the same things more frequently. And even if the other kids are failing occasionally, and my kids aren't, there's still this impression in the parent's mind that the other kid is more active in test days, therefore is being more successful, which I don't agree with. I think if your child is failing tests a lot, and they can fail occasionally, they should fail occasionally for a couple of reasons. They need to learn to deal with that kind of stuff. But if they're failing regularly or having trouble passing a test, I think it destroys their self-confidence and their self-esteem. And I think kids, that's one of the things I'm trying to build up in my skaters. Their self-awareness, their confidence, their self-esteem. They should know when if they have a test that's good or bad, they should know. If they do it on test day and execute it good or bad, they should know. They should have a concept as to whether they're proud of themselves, irregardless of passing or failing. And then they should have a concept of whether they should pass or fail. Now, they're not always going to be right, and that will develop over time, but that's kind of the goal. It isn't to pass a test. It isn't to get a sheet that says you passed on it. It's far more of a deeper internal evaluation that I'm trying to seek in my skaters. That wasn't the complaint. What was the complaint I was bringing up? Oh, the complaint is some coaches will take too much time between tests. And maybe pass out on opportunities where their kid could go up a level, the skater could go up a level, and didn't because the coach was a little bit, I guess the perception is the coach is a little nervous, trigger happy with pulling tests out, and only wants things to be perfect going in. That's not my idea at all. I actually don't particularly care if my kids pass or fail tests. I want them to learn the skills that the tests are supposed to teach them. And once they've done that, the test can go in. If they have not done that, the test cannot go in. If the end result is the test fails, I'm fine with that. Then we master those skills a little bit better. If the test passes, I get far more upset if I have a kid who hasn't learned what they're supposed to learn for a test, take the test, pass it. Now they've gone on to the next test and they haven't learned the previous test. It's a huge problem. Luckily, I don't suffer from that problem anymore. So the perception is that if I'm too picky or too much of a perfectionist with my standards, that will slow down kids' progress, and I have seen it happen, and it can happen. But that's not what I've experienced. My experience is that once I get them to a high standard and they pass, say, the preliminary tests, you move on to junior bronze, maybe the standard's a little higher, so they have to go from here to here. But the effort to get them there is very small and very minor and very quick. So as soon as they get to my standard, it's no problem getting to junior bronze, no problem getting to senior bronze, no problem getting to junior silver. They're very quick transitions, and you end up having this really rapid progress through the tests. You might occasionally get stuck here or there when a concept doesn't get through, when being able to get from here to here actually becomes a chore. They have to learn something they're not able to do, or whatnot, which is where talent comes in. See my video on talent. But generally speaking, I don't have any problems. My kids tend to take tests and pass tests faster than the coaches that are around me. For instance, in Labrador, and I'll talk about this later, I had a couple kids. There were 3 or 4 kids that started at the same time about the 2nd or 3rd year I was in Labrador, first, 2nd, or 3rd year, and they all skated the entire time. 2 of them had me as a coach. 1 of them had another coach. 2 of them had another coach, I guess. And the 2 with the other coach ended up, at the end of the 10 years I was there, passing 15 tests, 15 Skate Canada tests. My kids, who didn't particularly skate more, didn't particularly get more lessons, in fact they got less lessons, because I was so overbooked in lessons most of those 10 years that my kids got far less lessons than these other kids. No, I shouldn't say far less, half as many, 1/3 as many lessons as the other kids. My kids passed an average of about 40 tests each. So in the same amount of time as my kids passed about 3 times as many tests. So the rate per year was about 3 times as fast, 3 times as high. And that tends to be I haven't been able to demonstrate that in Nova Scotia a lot, because I haven't had kids go all the way up through the test levels. But at lower levels, I have anticipated pretty much the exact same thing. My kids get through tests with more success at a faster rate than most other coaches, because I really fine-tune the balance between making sure they know the stuff and keeping a high standard, but not being so much perfectionist that I'm slowing down or retarding their progress. It is a very fine line. You can err on both sides pretty easily, and I think all coaches at some point err on both sides, but there's a big gray zone in the middle. And I try to stay, as close to the middle of that gray zone as possible. I was going to say something. Standards. Oh, the only time I have some problems, big problems with skaters, is if I inherit a skater from another coach who had lower standards. So let's say their standards are here and I wanted them here. There can be this massive delay of 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. Usually it's not more than 9 months, depending on how much they skate and how good the student is at listening and adjusting to my completely different delivery and methodology for skating. I'm going to say maximum 9 months. But I have had the odd kid. I think I've had 1 or 2 kids over the years. I probably inherited 40 kids from other coaches. And I would say 10 of them, even if they were below my standard, within weeks, right up to my standard, they switched, were able to switch gears really easily between what their previous coach expected and wanted and what I expect and want. But I had the occasional kid whose coach either left the province or quit skating, where they were absolutely in love with their previous coach and loved them and loved the way they did it and loved everything they did, loved their attitude, loved their energy, loved their positivity, loved everything about it, and then had to switch to me kind of against their will. And now again, some of those cases go pretty good. As I said, I get along with the vast majority of my kids, but this is the one largest percentage of people that just can't adjust to me. They can't go from a coach that told them everything they did was wonderful and they were perfect and amazing, and they were taking 1 test a year and passing it, and that was awesome. They can't go from that to me, where I'm saying 1 test a year is not awesome. You cannot take 1 test a year. You cannot take 2 tests a year, or you are essentially failing in your job as a skater. I have much higher expectations, much higher development, much higher standards for execution, for rate of improvement, for rate of going through tests. That doesn't mean that people won't stop occasionally, but if I'm teaching somebody for 5 years, the average of tests should be really very, very high. The pass rate and how many tests they're actually taking per year. I feel like I got totally off topic on this video. Well, I'm going to have to watch this before I set it up. Yeah, so that's the, now luckily a lot of, I'd say, I've inherited 10 to 15 kids that were already at a very good standard. Some of them because I was working with them partly before a lot of the kids I inherit, obviously, I was working with them previously with the previous coach, and that's how I ended up kind of ending up with them. So there was some level of connection, level of rapport with me even before it happened. Not just with the kids, but with the parents. So it ended up going pretty well, but occasionally I've inherited kids that just could not shift gears and could not get on board with me. And we would struggle and butt heads for 3 to 6 to 9 months, and then they would eventually either switch to another coach or quit skating or whatever. Now I think this has happened. I honestly can't think off the top of my head if that's ever happened. I know I've inherited people that it's taken them 6 to 9 months to adjust to me, which is way too long to not be enjoying your lesson time and your skating. But that's really extreme circumstances, and a lot of that's coming out of can skate when they're basically afraid of men with whiskers and beards who don't look particularly soft or gentle. Neither do I talk soft or gentle or teach soft or gentle. Everything is fairly terse and hard and demanding. And that can throw 1 out of 10 girls off, turn them right off me. I think that's it. I can't think of anything else I would want to share about test days. So this might complete the entire playlist. Bye.